Oh, hello there. I am going live. Yes, we are. That's impressive. Okay. Well, I could wait for a few people to join. Let's see, there are a few people waiting, but I'm going to jump right in. All right, then. We are going to close this down because it's too distracting. And hello there. Okay, let's begin. So, Andrew Marr, what am I talking about? Who is Andrew Marr and why should he go to prison? Well, let's jump in and see. Well, that was kind of strange. Hello, I'm back. Anybody still there? Okay. I went to do screen share, which worked when I wasn't offline, and there we go. Okay. So, Andrew Marr. What's the story with Andrew Marr and why should he go to prison? Well, I don't actually think that Andrew Marr should go to prison, but if Tommy Robinson is in prison, Andrew Marr needs to be in. So this is what happened. This is the Daily Mail today, and it's a story all about something Andrew Marr said on his television program. It was an offhand, almost flippant comment because he was discussing, he and his guests were discussing chemical weapons used to murder children in Syria. And at the end, as they're wrapping up the segment, Andrew Marr just throws in and says, well, they're murdering children in Israel. What's the big deal? It's just the Middle East. So let's actually just play the part that got Andrew Marr into this trouble. And then I'll explain to you the trouble he's in and the lack of any consequences for him probably. But let's just listen. So they've had the start of the program, 10 minutes odd of discussion about Syria. See if this plays for you.
But it was a hot country that chose not to get involved even after chemical weapons attack as a result of votes in Parliament led by former Labour leader Ed Miliband.
The Middle East is a flame again. I mean, there's lots of Palestinian kids being killed further south as well by the Israeli forces.
But these are lessons. We learnt lessons from Iraq and Afghanistan of what happens when we.
So what he said was exactly that. You just heard. Let's just hear that again. Just an unbelievable jump from Syrians murdering their kids and murdering their people with chemical weapons to this.
Led by former Labour leader Ed Miliband.
The Middle East is a flame again. I mean, there's lots of Palestinian kids being killed further south as well by the Israeli forces.
But these are.
So let's just read here. BBC bosses have found Andrew Marr guilty of breaching editorial guidelines with a misleading claim that Israel had killed lots of Palestinian kids. And the corporation's extraordinary ruling against one of its most senior personalities is almost unprecedented. It follows a complaint about comments made by the presenter on his flagship Sunday news program. Now, I've just played the April 8th edition that you think. I mean, there's lots of Palestinian kids being killed further south as well by Israeli. So Jonathan Sacerdoti, who I know actually, very good guy, he complained in writing, and he said when talking about a story on the use of chemical weapons in Syria, Andrew Marr for some reason decided to talk about Israel, which was unrelated anyway. He stated there's a lot of Palestinian kids being killed further south by Israeli forces. It's completely incorrect and made up. And they hold this irrelevant discussion. Now, the BBC producers, let's read again from the Daily Mail, initially tried to defend Marr's comment by pointing out to the fact that 5 younger people, which basically means that they had people below the age of 18, probably 16 or over. And as we know from long history, Hamas and other terrorist organizations in the Gaza Strip have a long history of using not children, but young male adults to carry weapons, to even fight, to hide. They'll send running kids with 12-year-old kids off running errands and so forth amongst their fighters. This is nothing new. They also said, so after the accusation was leveled, the BBC tried to say, that there were some kids killed in the week following the broadcast. Was Andrew Marr supposedly predicting the future and therefore finding Israel and Jews guilty of a crime they hadn't yet committed but were bound to commit at some point in the future? I mean, it's obvious. Israel is going to kill some more children. We can accuse them of that. Anyway, the complaint has now been upheld. I have no idea what the sanction is against Andrew Marr. I honestly, there's no mention of what actually will happen differently at the BBC as a result of this. Now, why is this equivalent or at least comparable with what happened to Tommy Robinson? So we all know that Tommy Robinson was jailed after, let's put my camera back on, shall we? We all know that Tommy Robinson was jailed after a live stream outside Leeds Crown Court. And in that live stream where he spoke for 1.25 hours, he studiously avoided inferring the guilt of defendants and all the other things he was supposed not to do. But he ran afoul of a specific reporting restriction on that court, saying you couldn't talk about that court case because it's still in progress and because there's a later third part of the trial that's coming up, right? That's what we know about Tommy Robinson. And that's why he got slapped with a re-upped 3-month sentence and then an added to 10-month sentence. So he's serving 1 year and a month in prison, half the time in solitary confinement, in prisons full of Muslims who want to kill him. He's in prison. And Andrew Marr is not. Now, what did Tommy do? Well, you say that he might have prejudiced the case. Well, I've contended in quite a few videos that he doesn't contend. He doesn't stand to prejudice trial. And I can prove that to you. Watch. If Tommy Robinson was going to prejudice live Leeds court, if Tommy Robinson was going to prejudice, if his live stream that went on for 1.25 hours was in danger of prejudicing that case, which has got a third part which is going to run in a few months' time, why can I do this? Why is the stream that got Tommy Robinson arrested, why is this live on YouTube? Why does it have 249,000 views? I've asked people in the UK to check and see if they can see it, and everybody says that they can without too much. They can see this stream. If this stream, this isn't the only upload, it's just the first one you get that's got masses of views. If this stream is live on YouTube right now, why hasn't the court ordered it taken down? The judge has it in his power to send a notice to YouTube saying, take this down. I mean, it might exist on BitChute and other places, but really, they don't think it's prejudicial to the case because they've left it up. So what in effect, Tommy is in prison for a nonsense crime or a process crime where he inferred, where they're saying that he could prejudice a case, but then taking no steps to stop the prejudice continuing into the future. Andrew Marr, what did Andrew Marr do? Well, using the enormous resources of the BBC, which you all in the UK have to pay for. If you do not pay for the BBC, then people with guns will come and take you and put you in prison. That's the power of the BBC. You have no choice but to pay for them. And he used that platform to tell a lie about Israel that is prejudicial to Israel. Israel is always held, it's always on trial. In fact, I'm going to show you, I'm not going to play this because if I play this, there'll be a copyright strike. But Bob Dylan wrote an amazing song called Neighborhood Bully. Well, the neighborhood bully is just one man. I'm going to take you to verse 3, which is the one that matters here. The neighborhood bully's been driven out of every land. He's wandered the earth, an exiled man, seen his family scattered, his people hounded and torn. He's always on trial for just being born. He's the neighborhood bully. Well, this song, which was on the album Infidels, actually, co-written with Mark, or produced by Mark Knopfler as well, from Dire Straits, this song is all about Israel. It's saying that Israel's the neighborhood bully. He's outnumbered, and every time he defends himself, he's called a bully. And this particular verse always struck me. He's always on trial for just being born. That's what we are in Israel. Just our mere act of birth, people say, is illegitimate. It's us, it's Jews, it's the indigenous people of Israel returning home, rebuilding our country, and we're on trial. And Andrew Marr is sitting there in his BBC studio with an offhand comment, just a throwaway one line. Well, they're just killing kids in Israel. Nobody cares. Well, actually, yeah, everybody cares. And they care a lot more than they do in Syria. And when you come out with lies like that, where you don't have the backup, Mr. Andrew Marr, when you do that, you are prejudicing the ongoing trial that is always happening of Israel in the media. And that is why you should be in prison, Mr. Andrew Marr. You should be in prison just like Tommy Robinson. Or, and to be honest, this would be my freedom of speech moment, both of you should not be in prison. But I tell you what, I don't think Andrew Marr should be on the BBC or able to say this on the BBC. I don't know what will be the outcome of this upheld complaint by the BBC against one of its own staff members. I don't know what disciplinary action they can take against him. Fine him something, I don't know, take him off his program for a week or two. But the other thing is, and I got this from a journalist in the UK. I asked him, what do you think they're going to do? He said, nothing. Andrew Marr is going to be a hero amongst the predominantly far left BBC. He's going to be a hero because they're going to say, oh, he stood up to the big bad Jewish Israel lobby, Zio lobby. All the Corbynistas, they're going to go crazy for this ruling. They're going to love it. It's going to be evidence to them that Zio Jews, the Zionist occupation government that they share with the very far right, it's going to be evidence for them that we somehow control the media. And so it will continue and it will go on. But the entire way of looking at Israel has been poisoned in the UK by this kind of thing, by just flippant remarks like this one of Andrew Marr. You know what? I remember at the time being told about it, but I hadn't gone and looked at it. I'm going to play this one more time because honestly, you have to understand what this tells you about I would call it the mens rea, the guilty mind, the mind of Andrew Marr, in that the first thing when he's hearing about chemical weapons attack, and when he's hearing about a chemical weapons attack in Syria, the first thing that comes to his mind is Israel. Why? What is the connection? Why, in his mind, do Arabs murdering other Arabs in horrible ways, why does that, in his mind, why does he think of Jews?
We learned lessons from Iraq and Afghanistan of what happens when we get involved and get it wrong. Well, now we've learned about what happens when we don't get involved and get it wrong.
Let's move to the big domestic story, Potter.
Got to wind back.
And Amber
Let's go
back about
here.
knife crime.
As a result of votes in Parliament led by former Labour leader Ed Miliband.
The Middle East is aflame again. I mean, there's lots of Palestinian kids being killed further south as well by the Israeli forces.
But these are lessons. We learned lessons.
That's, to me, indefensible. But yeah, it's not. It's just so typical. Anyway, that's my thoughts on the Andrew Marr thing. I'll be very happy to read all your comments as they come in. I'm really enjoying the comments that I'm getting on the uptick of my channel as it seems to have become a bit more popular. So thanks for all that. I'll go back to Periscope some of the time, but nice to do this with a live broadcast from time to time. Thanks very much for watching, and see you all next time I do this.